is a government-aided school. We are providing support to by giving them infrastructure facility and for teaching computer session basic lessons, whereby we are relieving 2 teachers for an hour. KMA Foundation Day celebration. We celebrated our first ever Foundation Day on 18 November 2022 and honored our past presidents. KMA's another initiative, KMA Quiz, introduced a quiz program for corporates and B school students, and many more in the pipeline. Today, book review, Afterness. When I opened the book, the author's own introduction to his book caught my eyes. Afterness, the misty musing of a lifetime. Near the end of the innings, the joys and sadness, people and events, looking back, just that, only one. It kindled varied emotions, inquisitiveness, and eagerness to read the book. So beautifully written, Afterness, Home and Away, by Dr. ASHOK S. Ganguly. Thank you, sir, for your valuable contribution to the world, which will definitely be an inspiration and motivation to millions. We are privileged and honored to have this illustrious person in our midst. Thank you, Dr. Ganguly, for joining us. The dignitaries to review the book are all eminent personalities and are sons of the soil, the pride of Kerala. Mr. Venugopal C. Govind, Mr. K.P. Padmakumar, Mr. M.K. Das, Mr. V.R. Nair. I am fortunate to be introducing them to you. Sri Venugopal C. Govind, a senior chartered accountant with over 55 years of practice and was a senior managing partner of Mrs. Verma and Verma Chartered Accountants. He has served in the Expert Advisory Committee and Peer Review Board of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, New Delhi. He has served in several expert committees on industry, finance, economic affairs, and taxation of government, as also of Apex Chambers of Commerce and Industries and Associations of India. He was awarded the Management Leadership Award by the Kerala Management Association. Mr. K.P. Padmakumar is a banker with nearly 52 years of experience in India and abroad in commercial banking, treasury management, capital market, mutual funds, and NBFCs. He is a graduate in agriculture and certified associate of Indian Institute of Bankers, CAIIB. During his 27 years of service in the State Bank of India, he was the chairman of Federal Bank Limited for 6 years from 1999 to 2005 and was instrumental in the transformation of the bank. He served on the board of Jyoti Laboratories Limited, Mumbai, as an independent director for 12 years. Presently, he is the whole-time director of Hedge Finance Limited, Kochi. He has also published many articles on banking and financial markets in leading national and international journals. He is also a recipient of various awards such as Management Leadership Award instituted by Kerala Management Association, Lifetime Achievement Award by Kerala Darshan Vedi, Lifetime Achievement Award by State Forum of Bankers Club, to mention a few. Mr. M.K. Das, after post-graduation in economics, joined the Financial Express editorial in Mumbai in mid-60s and covered corporates among other beats. Later promoted as assistant editor, had a short stint in Delhi in late 70s before taking over as resident editor in the southern edition of Financial Express in Chennai. In late 80s, moved to Kochi as editor of the Indian Express, demitted office in 2000 and has been a freelance columnist. He has authored 5 books, have widely traveled both inside and outside the country. Mr. V.R. Nair graduated in mechanical engineering from IIT Karankpur in 1964. He joined the Hindustan Lever as a management trainee and had an exciting ride for the next 37 years. His technical expertise spanned product groups like soaps, detergents, vanaspati, seafood, tea plantation, fine chemicals, and fertilizers. His last posting brought him to Kochi to turn around the ailing Tatapura factory, which had been acquired by levers from the Tatas. He has been actively involved in KMA activities over the years and has served as a MC member for 14 years. Now, I request Mr. S.B.R. Nair kindly introduce Dr. Ashok S. Ganguly and introduce his book, Afterness, Home and Away. To you.
President of KMA, Mrs. Nirmala Devi, celebrated technocrat and author of the book under review, Dr. Ashok Ganguly, my co-panelists, Mr. V.C. Govind, Mr. K.P. Padmakumar, and Mr. M.K. Das, Mr. Algiers Khalid, Secretary of KMA, fellow members of KMA, management students, and guests. It is indeed an honor and privilege to speak about the author and his book with a very intriguing title of Afterness. It is not just an autobiography, nor is it a chronicle of his life and of the life and work of the author, who is such a highly celebrated professional in the corporate world. But in his own words, it is a misty musings of a lifetime as we look back of a great spell of achievements. Dr. Ashok Ganguly, former chairman of Unilever, Hindustan Unilever, and director of the Global Unilever Board, had a meteoric rise in career and achievements, both during his Unilever days and thereafter. In the words of Dr. Y.V. Reddy, former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Ashok Ganguly is a scientist, a business leader, statesman, and public individual. Is a warm and soft-spoken person. With his integrity and intellect, he is a source of fine counsel, truly a Renaissance man, unquote. Dr. Ganguly had his schooling and early education in Bombay, graduating from the Jai Hind College as a university rank holder. Thereafter, went to the USA on a research scholarship, obtained his MS and PhD from the University of Illinois. He received job offers from the university to continue his research, but was steadfast in his determination to come back and work in India. He was appointed a management trainee in Hindustan Lever, at that time one of the most coveted jobs in the country, but resigned just after a few days as he did not find the marketing job exciting and preferred to pursue his research. However, the company gave him a fresh offer, which he accepted and joined as a scientist in the R&D division. In his career path, a fork came very soon when he was transferred to a manufacturing role in the soap factory of Bombay. Very soon thereafter, he came to Calcutta's Garden Reach factory as his general factory manager. There, I had the good fortune to work closely under him. We were witness to his meteoric rise in the company, rising to the position of chairman in a very short span of time. He was elevated as a board member of Unilever PLC, being only the second Indian to rise to that position. His achievements during the 35 years in Unilever, affecting and guiding major policy matters, are outlined in the book. He returned to India post-retirement from Unilever in 1997, and thereafter adorned many crucial roles both in government bodies and outside. Dr. Ganguly had served on the boards of ICICI Bank, Mahindra and Mahindra, Dr. Reddy's Lab, and Wipro. He was the non-executive chairman of ICI India, First Source Solutions, and Anand Bazar Patrika. He has served as an external director of Reserve Bank of India for 7 years. In the UK, he served on the board of British Airways, also for 7 years. He became a member of the Prime Minister's Scientific Advisory Committee, the Prime Minister's Technology Advisory Committee, a member of the CSIR, the Council of Science and Industrial Research, chairman of the board of IIT Kanpur, and many such. He, however, accepted a nomination to the Rajya Sabha as an independent member in 2009, where he came to be known as the 2-minute Ganguly, because for his brief but very frequent focused interjections in the House. In recognition of his significant contributions and achievements, awards and recognitions kept pouring in. It was Padma Bhushan in 1988, Padma Vibhushan 2009, the CBE, Commander of the Order of the British Empire from the UK government 2006, Businessman of the Year 1986, Economic Times Lifetime Award 2003, University of Illinois International Alumni Award 2003. It was only on going through the book that we came to know of his amazing contributions mentioned earlier, that one almost begins to wonder whether life begins after retirement, or is it that for one who is so brilliant and retirement never happens? Now coming to the book, the memoirs are written with honesty and a human touch. It takes the readers on a journey with him as he looks back fondly on his extraordinary life. The humility and almost casualness with which he recounts important events and achievements simply hits you hard. Plenty of interesting and humorous anecdotes are narrated. He talks of the friendships with Rajiv Gandhi and many other principal protagonists of the era, such as Pranab Mukherjee, Narendra Tiwari, Farooq Abdullah, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Indira Gandhi, and even Mother Teresa. Dr. Ganguly doesn't shy away from talking about his failures and sacrifices that went on to define his life. It provides interesting insights into the author's thinking process and decision-making skills, that which enabled the meteoric rise and sustained his legendary career. At heart, he's a family man. His fondness for his parents, sister, and daughters, and his abiding love for his late wife, Connie, who was his partner and pillar for 5 decades, drips through the pages. It is this human touch that makes the book such an endearing read. With these words, and a big thanks once again to Dr. Ganguly for giving us this opportunity to interact with him, I hand it over to Mr. Venugopal C. Govind. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajan. Eminent President of Kerala Management Association, Madam Namada, all the distinguished co-panelists of mine we have here, all the eminent members of Kerala Management Association and friends. You all have heard about the outstanding personality, magnificent personality of Dr. S. Ganguly, who has reached the heights of success in life, career, whatnot. You also listened to what has been said about his excellent book, Afterness, Home and Away. Sir, there are over 100 persons of eminent persons who are members of KM and others watching this program. There are managers, budding managers, young entrepreneurs, established businessmen, professional dignitaries and management students and all. For the benefit of all of them, we would all like to know the path that you have treaded, the achievements that you have had, your vision, your concept, your perceptions, and all about your life and career. As we look at your journey through the times to this level of excellence, we find in the first phase of your career, say up to about 30, 35 years or so, you're a very dynamic, revolutionary, transformatory youngster. As to put it in your own words, in a modest way, you have said that you are a failed student in school, the 10th standard. From there, the top ranking student for your science graduation in City College to getting your master's with excellence and doctorate in Illinois University, you have achieved tremendous amount of academic excellence. How was that journey possible? How the transformation could take place like that? Is one aspect we would like to know. Secondly, from what you have described yourself as a college union president from a leftist union, and who considered several books of Marxism as your prized possession, you have joined one of the most largest and significant capitalist corporates in the world, and then got yourself groomed, shaped, came up like that. And thirdly, your passion has been always to science research and all that. But you accepted your position, a very coveted position as management training in an organization which in the 60s and 70s are looked at like almost divine, Hindustan Lever. Having got that position as management training, you just coolly resigned from that post and then decided to go away. You were called back and offered the job of your passion to be a research assistant, which took you through the fascinating journey as we understand from your book. So kindly explain to us what was your mindset, what was your ambitions, what were your aspirations, what were your perceptions and all at that stage of your life for the benefit of our young managers and budding management students. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm deeply grateful to you. I reflected on all of this when I was stuck at home due to COVID. I did not plan. I did not plot. I had nothing to do with my own career. And when I tell this to young people, they feel very disappointed. I said, your role in life is to build people who work with you, who work under you, to identify future leaders. Don't think about yourself because there are many people thinking about you. You don't know it at that time. But when you look back at life, you realize that you had very little to do with your future. That there were a lot of other people who were looking at your future and you did not know anything about it. And I'm not very popular in the speaker circuit, that's why. But I keep on telling people, build the careers of people who work with you for you. Identify talent there, rather than be preoccupied of what you wish to be. Because you're likely to go wrong and be frustrated with your career progression. So I'm sorry to disappoint young people, which I continue to do until today. Because if you're preoccupied with yourself, there is a very high likelihood that your preoccupation will lead to disappointment. So I would have loved to have known what I was doing, what I was planning, what I wanted to become. But this would be dishonest on my part to pretend that I knew what was going to happen. So that is my brief answer to you, sir. That I really did not know what my future was all about.
Thank you, sir, for your frankness. Over to Mr. Padma Kumar.
Thank you very much. So Ganguly, I will like to take you back to the school days. And one curious aspect which I found is that your subsequent foray into research and the corporate world definitely carried in you tremendous amount of cerebral power as an individual, even as a child. So, what was smothering this brilliance in your school days? It's a curious aspect. Why it was smothered? You say that you were not interested in the school curriculum as such, and perhaps you didn't have inspiring teachers which you had at the Jason College. But nevertheless, one gets a feeling that there was something which was smothering this outstanding brilliance in you. What's your take on that?
I really don't have an answer to it, but I have a approach to an answer. And one does not know. One is not born brilliant or clever or made for success. One is born with the genes of one's parents and ancestors. And if parents become too anxious for their children to be outstanding from the age of 1, then they also get disappointed. Why I did badly in school, why I did poorly, why I was not interested. I don't have an answer. That's the way it was till the age of 15. And there was a tipping point, and the tipping point was entirely due to the outstanding, mind-blowing teachers of my college, Jagan College. And the transformation that they triggered were not triggered in my school days. I'm not blaming my teachers for that. Many of the teachers, after many years, 20, 30 years, when I met them, they did not believe when I told them what I do. And I didn't mind really. So, but the greatest factor in my case, when I look back, that although my mother would be disappointed with my underperformance and all that, my father never for a moment, ever by his attitude, by his words, by anything at all, expressed any sense of disappointment. And I think that was the biggest factor to allow me to do all the things I've done. That when parents become over anxious for the success of their children, they're overburdening them for something that they're not ready for. And I've thought a lot about it but I don't think people are interested in this. Very honestly, I've written about it. But I don't think it will appeal to many people. You have to become a potential Nobel Prize winner by the age of 5 or 7. Otherwise, parents become very disappointed. Parents are to blame more or completely compared to the children. This is an answer which does not appeal to many people, but that's my honest reflection on my own life.
Confining to that aspect, Dr. Ganguly, you said the tipping point was the brilliance of the teachers at Jagan College. And later on in your life, the inputs that Bob Whitney gave you during your Illinois days. To my mind, one important tipping point which you perhaps made a reference to just a moment ago was the way the father saw the greatness in you, which seldom our fathers see. The person who is failing in school, who has done 2 escapades from home, to keep quiet about it requires tremendous amount of faith in your what, which your father had. So one almost thought that there is no dedication in the book. The book should be dedicated to Baba, who foresaw the Dr. Ganguly in his son at that moment of time. Any take on that?
I think it would be unfair to give my father a vision which he may not have had. And I remember, I think I've written about it in the book, that when I was told that I was going to join the Unilever board, my father, when I and my wife went to meet my parents to touch their feet and to seek their blessings, my father was a man of very few words. He only asked me, why do you want to work for the British? Which completely stunned me, because he had himself spent much of his career in the Bombay Electricity Supply and Tramway Company, which was a British company, private company, before it was nationalized after independence. But I never found out why he had asked me this, because my father was of very few words. I would talk to him, but I would never argue. Because he was a revered person to me. So he will always be a revered person to me. So I am what I am because of my parents, to start with. But that he saw something in me which my mother could not see would be, well, what he did was he kept on changing private tutors without any. He quietly did it. He was neither disappointed nor elated. But he was like an umbrella over our family. So these are very complicated issues which each individual faces in life. He was very proud of me, of what I achieved. But he would never talk about his pride. He would be happy with his pride, but not talk about it. My mother would always be my publicity agent. Great parents are the key to life. They not only give you the genes, they are the inspiration which make you what you are.
So happy, doctor, that you are paying such glorious tributes to your parents, which I think most of us have not been very well alive. Mr. Das,
Dr. Ganguly, you succeeded 3 distinguished CEOs in your career. What flashed across your mind when you were asked to step into their shoes? And second question, the underlying humaneness in what you said, wrote, and did, has it been influenced by earlier fascination with Marxism?
Sorry, would you repeat that last question, please?
Your comments.
The last question, if you can kindly repeat it. Can you repeat that question, please?
I can repeat the question.
The second question was, the underlying humanness in whatever you did, said or wrote, in your personal capacity as a corporate chief or as a director or whatever, has it been influenced by your early honeymooning with Marxism?
Well, I tell you what, I was in school when one of my uncles became the mayor of Patna, about which I've written. And I got those days, Russia used to send a lot of books on Marxism, bound volumes, which a young person is very proud to own. But I got into trouble. Actually, I was a member of the Student Federation of India and all that. But I got into a little bit of problem in my college when I was heading the union, leftist union of the college. And it created certain tensions. And I was given a choice by the principal, which I have not written about, to either continue my education in the college or follow the Communist Party of India and become a politician. So I did not have a choice left because I was enjoying my college so enormously. And it was a difficult decision. But I had grown older and I decided to quit my political leanings, at least for the time being. while I pursued my education. But I continue to have a lot of friends in the communist movement. And I guess I have some Bengali gene in me, which tilts a bit towards the left.
And the first answer to the first question.
The first question of stepping into the shoes of what flashed across your mind when you were asked to step into the shoes of your three distinguished predecessors.
You see, I had a reasonably rapid, somebody must have decided that what my future is. And I honestly, I was very pleased every time I got a new promotion, new job. But I was never carried away. I was never over-related as to what is taking me to these different levels. The consequence of which I was not aware at that time was that I was never overawed by great people who preceded me. I mean, if you look at the chairmanship of Hindustan Unilever, there were the giants like Prakash Tandon, Vasant Rajadaksha, member of Planning Commission, T. Thomas. So they were just superior and outstanding people. I felt very humbled when called upon to succeed in that job. And humbleness helps, not being carried away. But those are all old-fashioned things. I'm delighted to remain old-fashioned.
Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, I want to take you through the next phase of your career as it blossomed. All through your journey, your corporate career, you are largely influenced by two aspects. One, your complete focus on research, development, and technology, which you wanted to. Otherwise, you would not have resigned the post of a management trainee and chosen to be a research assistant in India. So your focus on research as a passion, number one. Number two, your unfailing love or faith in India. On the R&D aspect, you joined as a research assistant, but very soon, just about when you are in your mid-30s, your seniors wanted you to move over from research to management, operations, marketing, whatever. If it was the same you as you were, who resigned at that time, you would have fully denied that, not accepted, and continued your research. But you chose to take up that challenge, go through the other fork, and became, as you have described yourself as, a laundry packaging manager, a secondary position according to your own perception. Further, little later, 10 years down the line or 8 years down the line, when you are on secondment to Holland on an official assignment, you are called by your senior and offered a very high profile position in research and technology to take charge of research, to head a research organization of scientists with, according to your words, a whopping promotion which was enticing to you. That too you refused, and you decided to continue with your own. So what were that passing through your mind and what influenced you? First aspect of the question. The second is your faith and love for India. There have been many instances in your life when you would have been really attracted to be outside. When you were offered positions in UK, in Holland and all that, at several phases of your life, all of which you decided, no, I want to be in India. I'll be with you for some time, but I want to get back to India. And even when you are offered very higher positions, also you decided, no, I would rather like to be a chairman of HLL than taking up higher positions in the hierarchy of Unilever. And you have also mentioned that as a young person, you have so much of hope and lit the lamp of hope in you about India, which as the years went by, the glow became feeble and weak and all. So looking at all that, what were passing through your mind? Were these decisions or an influence, as you said, does it happen like that? It cannot be. It must have been well thought out at that point of life in your career. It must have been well thought out, defined, structured decisions. For the benefit of all of us listening to you, can you elaborate?
See, the best thing that happened to me, which I've written about, is my arranged marriage. My parents were disappointed with one of my siblings getting, not getting married to somebody they had chosen for her, my elder sister. And I told them that you arrange a marriage for me, and if I like the lady, I'll get married. I don't have any friends waiting for me to ask me to marry them. The best thing that happened to me, that I married a distant cousin of mine. It was an arranged marriage between the parents. And she remained a silent partner throughout my life. But she was 100% listener when I thought aloud as to what I was going to do and what she felt like it. I've written about that as well. The point is, from the very soon after I joined Hindustan Lever those days, I was transferred to Holland. I was transferred to United States. I was transferred to Sri Lanka. I was transferred to England. For various assignments, and everywhere they asked me, you stay on, you become a Dutch citizen, we will get you a green card in America, you live in England, have a nice country house, you and your wife settle down there. The point was very simple. The point was very simple. I was first very excited with the type of promotion and salaries and living in Europe. But when I sat coolly down with my wife and we talked about it, and she always heard me, she never expressed her opinion. But by talking to her, I got conscious of the fact that none of this is a lasting achievement. But there must be something good in me or something reasonable in me why they're offering this to me. But we want to go back to India. What is the logic of that? I still don't know. But both of us felt that we should return to India rather than becoming a Dutch or an American or an English or whatever it is. So it was a very conscious decision without any vision of the future. I enjoyed my job in India. We loved our life in India. And in India, of those days of controls, we did not get great salaries and any of that. There was something. And we had also the satisfaction that both our parents were in India as well. So there was a middle class attraction of family, which cannot be described very clearly, which influences one's decision. In my case, my wife gets 100% for supporting in anything that I wanted to do. We had a great family life. And that is, I think, 99% of what person you become as you grow older and advance in life.
Yes, Doctor, can you also elaborate on the other limb of my question, that at a crucial time of your career, you moved away from a senior research fellow to the operation side, the management, manufacturing side. That was a decision perhaps no one would have even thought of at that stage. But it proved to be right because you reached the heights of, no doubt, no doubt.
So the point is it's a very profound point. When I resigned from Hindustan Lever in the very beginning, I already had a job at the University of Washington in Seattle as an assistant professor. So I said, I'll go back to that. And you know the rest of the story, which is all written in the book. In this case, I had spent a lot of time abroad, my wife and I, and we had come back to India. And I was summoned, which I've written about, by the chairman of the company, Vasant Rajadaksha, and my predecessor, Mr. Thomas. And they had a very simple chat with me. They said that we wanted you to know what we are thinking. We think that you are now ready to be pushed at the deep end of the sea. Whether you are able to swim and come back to the shore is entirely your responsibility. So we are not sort of either encouraging you, but we are telling you what we think you might want to think about. And if you want to think about, you will have to start your life all over again. You will theoretically go down one level below your present job, but that's up to you whether you can withstand being reduced one's level, not in salary or not in your position, but the job is one level lower than you. And I did not know what to expect from this conversation. It was out of the blue. The chairman and the technical director does not call people every day to give them this message. I found out that is also true. So when I was driving home, I said, I'm now on the horns of a dilemma. What they have told me is that they have hung a mango in front of me. Whether I will be able to reach that mango or not, I don't know. So I had a long chat with my wife that evening. Whenever I used to return home, we used to go for a walk. And she was a great listener. She hardly spoke. She heard everything. And then I would always come back. I said, what do you think? What is your view? She said, I agree with whatever you are saying. So it was a difficult decision. They had given me 2 weeks to think about it. I sought an appointment with them the very next day and said that I accept your proposition. If I sink, I will sink. That's how it happened.
It's and that proved to be a very right decision in your case, Mr. Padma.
But Ganguly, the shift to manufacturing. Because you, at that material time, you had a PhD, a reputation as a good scientist under Mr. Bob Whitney. With all that, you came to the research of Hindustan Unilever. What is in you which according to you gave the indication that you are suited better for manufacturing? Maybe I have put it wrongly, but at least your bosses thought that you are better for manufacturing as a general manager, and going forward, your talents will bloom better than in the research capacity. To the youngsters listening to our conversation, what do you think was the trait in you which perhaps gave rise to the signal to the HLL senior management that here is a man who should be doing manufacturing and sales and marketing rather than stuck in research?
No, I don't know the answer to that. But what I know is that the chairman and the technical director of the board did not make it a general practice to call people and give them unsolicited advice. And when you find that out, you think, I thought, why did they call me and have this conversation? And it was not an easy decision. It was a very difficult decision for me because I was doing something I loved. And I was going to a totally open desert of which I did not know anything at all. And after moving there, and through the next 10 years, or next 6 years, I already joined the board of Hindustan Lever, and in another 4 years, I became the chairman. Now, if we ask me that, did you know all this? I said, I knew nothing. I knew nothing, but there were people who were asking me or were telling me from their point of view, I cannot take it lightly. So it was not an easy decision. I spent a sleepless night.
Thank you, Doctor. Perhaps the lesson from that could be that every professional manager has to be flexible in his career options and for career advancements, if you want to reach that level of heights which you have achieved.
No, they're important. That's a very important question. If you are preoccupied about your future, you're likely to be frustrated. If some other people whom you respect are giving you some signal, it is for you to weigh whether you accept that signal or advice or whether you don't. Nobody is forcing you. They told me, we don't know whether you will be able to swim to the shore or whether you will sink. And so there is no assurance. But we felt that you might want to think about it.
Thank you, Dr. Das.
Dr. Ganguly, you are one of the very few, or perhaps the only CEO in this country who had such a massive exposure to both Indian, domestic and foreign corporate world. What has been your experience in terms of content and form and style of functioning of these two corporates? Can you throw some light on it?
Not terribly different. Not terribly different. You see, there is one thing which Unilever, and I saw in a couple of other companies also, that the only criterion of your performance is the uncompromising commitment of the corporation to meritocracy. Nothing else counts. The color of your skin, the white shirt or black shirt you wear, nothing. You are the future. Are we choosing the right people for the future? And that is a universal issue. And because of the shareholder movement of late, the time span available to CEOs and all to turn around their company is so short that the shareholder impatience sometimes destroy successful corporations like General Electric, for example. In the hurry for the shareholders to get their return, you destroy organizations, not because of the management. I don't know whether I'm making myself clear.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor.
Good, very good.
But Doctor, what has been the case in India? You mentioned the case of General Electric, all right, but in India, what has been the role of the stockholders in deciding the company's activities and policies?
You know, I have a hypothesis. It's not a theory. I said the initial years of socialism was a perfect instrument in the hands of owner businesses in this country to build their monopoly. So, where ownership rules, it's almost impossible to get the type of talent which would explode the company's growth and prosperity. And you will notice one thing, that the new generation of people who are going into ventures, several of them are the more younger generation of these ownership companies who want to branch out and go into something new. But the ownership monopoly and the over-patriotism of our rulers to promote local businesses, I think does a disservice for the competitiveness, professionalism, and the dynamism. You know, we are a country of the largest number of poor people in the world. Are we progressing at a rate where you see the horizon that we will create enough wealth by freeing up people and their energies, rather than, talk about, being national, say patriotism and all these things. In creating wealth, you need to worry about your own people in poverty rather than, what the rest of the world thinks about you. That's my personal view.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Dr. Ganguly, you had mentioned in your book about your first meeting with Mother Teresa
Yes.
and how she practically placed a dying child on your lap and sort of gave long-lasting impressions on you. You also said that over a period of time, Hindustan Lever as an organization has been supporting the Mother Teresa's organization in a big way. What I would like to know is what are your impressions of the two different facets of her personality that you dealt with? One, a living saint, and the other, the CEO of a large organization running more than 200 units all over the world. So you're, on one side, when you talk to her, there's a saint sitting in front of you. On the other side, there's and you are an equal to you CEO working.
No, well, the point is this. My reverence for Mother Teresa is a lifelong reverence. And I was born a Hindu, I'll die a Hindu. It has nothing to do with religion. It is to do with the piety for the poor. And that we had a very small opportunity to support her in this area is a micro level contribution to the larger picture that I was just answering on the poverty and the sheer sort of misery of the largest number of poor people in the world. And it did not matter to her, what caste, what community, what religion you belong to. Mother Teresa was the mother of this nation. And my devotion will remain and go with me and my wife exactly the same. Because once you meet her, once you talk to her, once you see her work, if you are not transformed, then there is something you should worry about.
Thank you, Doctor. I would like to get to know from you a very important aspect, which is of great significance and relevance to all the corporate managers, corporate leaders, and also industrialists listening to you. You always felt that research and development has been the engine driving the growth of any industry or nation or economy. You have even written a book on business-driven R&D, managing knowledge to create wealth.
Yes.
So much focused on R&D as you are. And you have made a very studied observation that research and development in India, either in the private sector or public sector, is of very limited or no interest as far as the private sector is concerned. And research and development, in your own words, had always been desultory to the public sector. And it continues to be so. That would be really disastrous for a nation like ours who are wanting to be a 5 trillion, 7 trillion, 40 trillion economy times ahead. So what is your advice to the both business community and to the national leaders on this?
Well, I feel very sad. I feel very sad that there are islands of good work, but those islands don't add up to a landmass of significance. We talk a lot about R&D, private sector, public sector, and I was closely associated with CSIR, also the CSIR Council, which was chaired by Mrs. Indira Gandhi when she was the Prime Minister. And the civil servants and ministers are convinced that we are doing a marvelous job. And we are in certain areas, space, for example. If Jamshed Bhabha and Sarabhai were not the leaders at the time and who were encouraged to do R&D for R&D's sake, then the nuclear power generation or the space technology, etc., would not have been as prominent and as advanced as they are today. I'm talking about much simpler things. I'm talking about creating competitiveness through the use of knowledge to compete with the world in a manner that you are recognized. And you create wealth by that. You measure wealth by your competitiveness with international companies. So we are a nation of shortages. So running a business is not a great heroism. But that must not allow you to go to sleep. I'm afraid I'll be very unpopular. That's why I'm very careful what I say now, because I'm totally retired and out of action. And I will stop there because I feel very strongly about it, but I don't think I will write another book. Why don't we explode in research? Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Padma. Then I'm shifting to another aspect. All through the book.
Please hold the microphone close, please.
All through the book, what is surfacing is your constant endeavor to resolute action as a manager, as a human being. So I get the sense that there is some uniqueness in you, which, and I put it to you that a very unique personal trait in you. To have a wide spectrum of politicians still getting attracted to you, from Jyoti Basu to Dr. Manmohan Singh, not to speak of the Shanghai mayor who picked you out from a crowd and remembered your old encounter with him. These are very unusual things happening unless that person has that kind of magnetism. So for the benefit of our managers, what is that ingredient in you which made you what you are as a successful manager?
I hesitate to give advice. My biggest advice is, please be what you are. Don't try to be somebody else, number one. Number two, the more anxious you are about your career, it is likely that you will be wrong because a few other people decide your career. Number three, if you're frustrated in your work, do not take that frustration home with you. Do not expect your children who are growing up to accomplish what you have failed to accomplish yourself, and therefore put unusual burden on them. If you have a very satisfying and happy home, do not try to interfere there, because that is the least competence you have as a manager. These are the things I strongly believe in. And don't think about yourself as I. A lot of other people do that for you.
That's well said. Very well said. Please.
Dr. Ganguly, you have been a very bitter critic of Indian bureaucracy throughout the book. You have been a very bitter critic of bureaucracy. Now, Mrs. Gandhi did make an attempt to improve it by inducting talent from the private sector. Your own two predecessors joined, Suresh from Mahindra joined, T.A. Pai joined, and all. Her attempt was to make it more sensitive to the needs of the people and whatever, not being rule bound. A man like you refused to join that. don't you think you would have made a larger contribution, especially in view of your contact with the powers that be at that time? And at least made some improvement, marginally though, to the working of Indian bureaucracy.
You know, the Prakash Tandon had left a mantra for Hindustan Lever by practicing it. He had said, we are too large a company for the government not to know what we do, how we do, and what are our plans. Equally, it is important for the government, for us to understand the government. Why majority of people after independence, the civil servants especially, and who encourage the politicians to think that multinational were the dregs left behind of our colonial rule. So there was a great misunderstanding. So rather than Prakash Tandon, Rajat Thomas, and then I, and then my successors had to develop a relationship with politicians and civil servants to understand how their mind works and for them to understand how we work. Now, the brightest people in this country in one place are the civil servants of this country. And when brilliant people are left together to find faults with others, you can imagine what is the outcome. One thing that convinced certainly me that the last place I would get close to, other than in my professional role, was politics. But a country like India, a democracy like India, will have people who are good at politics. The best minds will go for the IAS and the civil service. They start at the taluka level, go to district level, they see all of India. And yet, when many of them end up in Delhi, they become different people. My friend told me, I have a lot of friends in this. Now I have less and less, that we serve any government that comes into power. And therefore, that is our responsibility. And one of the other civil servants who was standing nearby, he sort of sotto said, as long as it is in the interest of the country. Now imagine their mindset that they are the most powerful people in the country because they have continuity, they are brilliant, and they have loyalty to the government in power. And yet, the question that comes back to mind again and again, could we have done better? Are we going to do better than what we are doing? And I don't have an answer to that.
Dr. Ganguly, that still doesn't really, you don't seem to really reply to my question. Don't people like you would have made a difference in the thinking of bureaucracy, even especially a man like you with your closeness to the decision-making political powers of the country at the time?
All right, I'll answer that question very straightforward way. All of us individually must be aware of our weaknesses more than our strengths. And I knew in my heart of heart that I will never be successful either as a politician or as a bureaucrat. A lot of offers came my way. I knew that I would be a total failure, either as an elected person or as an appointed person. So one must know one's strengths and weaknesses. The halos don't come out of somebody else's gift. I'm very clear in my mind about it. I would be a total failure in politics and bureaucracy. I don't have that competence.
But you did play a part politician when you joined the Rajya Sabha?
That is my biggest mistake in my life. And if I don't make any mistake in my whole life, like you will start suspecting. He said, what's wrong with this guy? This guy has never failed.
Yes, doctor, you have mentioned that in your book, 2 failures you had. One was in your 10th standard exam, the other was in your time in Rajya Sabha.
I agree. I totally agree.
Doctor, I want to ask you one very important question. You were in the board of directors of Reserve Bank of India for 9 long years.
9 years, yes.
9 years, yes.
I had to step down once I joined the Rajya Sabha. I
People
can't hear you. Take the mic, please.
Padma Kumar and me, drawn from the fields of finance and banking, we have closely interacted with the Reserve Bank at the higher levels many times. And we ardently believe that Reserve Bank is one of the finest, well-run, expert, professionally structured organization, managing the central banking operations, monetary control and all that in that's the whole country very well. And you also seem to have the same perception.
Absolutely.
In your book. But coming to the banking scenario, you made a very coming to the banking scenario, you made a very poignant statement that in the absence of strict, your words I'm quoting, in the absence of strict fiduciary accountability for the board of directors of banks in India, the performance of banks is unlikely to improve significantly in the foreseeable time. Now, many bankers, bank managers are listening to you. So how do you look at it now? What is the scenario? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel?
The light at the end of the tunnel is, I want to know how many borrowers of money from banks have faced the consequences in the court of law. And if the fiduciary responsibility of the independent directors and the board of public sector banks are not questioned as to, we have got a lot of rules and regulation for recovering the debts. But I do not believe the accountability, the governance and audit accountability of banks are strong enough, questioning enough, and intervening enough to make our banking sector, which is exploding, especially both the private sector and public sector. And are the private sector banks any better? I would say only, if I were to be very generous, marginally so. I'll be very unpopular for saying this in an open forum, but I'm convinced accountability is the measure for professionalism and success. And the bad debts, I don't want to get into it because I feel very strongly about it. I want people to disagree with me. I will humbly accept the disagreement, but I'm unlikely to change my view just because majority of people might disagree with me. And I'll tell you the best thing that the British did in 1935 was to put the Reserve Bank of India headquarters in Bombay. So being close to industry, they had a better understanding of the working of industry compared to if they were put in our capital. And I pleaded with, I publicly said it, the Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Commerce, and now the Ministry of IT and Electronics, they should be in places like Bombay, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, and other places. Their presence should be far more here than in Delhi. Oh, you have a presence in Delhi. But have your presence where the action is. I've gone a little bit out of your question, but I feel very strongly about it.
It almost sounds like you being an anti-Lithuanian.
I can't, sorry.
You almost sound like you are being anti-Lithuanian, anti-Delhi, anti-Lithuanian, Delhi. Newton Delhi.
No, what I'm being is being more practical that if you, and especially with the present government, I said, because you are going to do all these reforms, you have to have your own presence in the center of the reforms. And therefore, you can have offices anywhere you want, but you have to have a daily transaction with the people who are going to make those reforms work. I'm not anti anything. I'm always looking for ways we can do better.
Thank you, Doctor. One last question from Padma.
Sir, this may sound with a political color, but in page 207 of the book, one could almost perceive a sense of pessimism as far as the future of the country is concerned, from what you have written. But now that structural reforms are happening one after the other in the country, the corporate world has assumed its ascendancy, what it should have. And many of the travails that you spoke about in terms of accountability, etc., to a limited degree is getting established.
I agree.
And the country is planning to become a developed nation by 2047. So in that journey, many are believing that we are on the right track. So what is the place of your pessimism here?
No, I'm not pessimistic. See, everybody has one life. And you want to see everything happening during, at least much of it happening during your lifetime. I'm not at all pessimistic. I'm actually encouraged by a lot of the reforms that are taking place. I'm only saying, can we do better? Can we move faster? That is what I'm saying. Of course, things have changed remarkably. We are not static. We could not have got to where we have got to without dynamism in our government, civil servants, and private sector and public sector. My question is always, can we do better? Could we have done better? And I mean, these are legitimate questions which everybody asks. And I ask because I know, I mean, when you're born, you don't know that this is the only life you're going to have. But then you say that, could this have happened in my lifetime? There is an element of selfishness in that also. But why can't we be selfish at my age a little bit? I take it as a privilege.
Not a question, but a request, Doctor. A person of the caliber of Dr. Y.V. Reddy, former governor of Reserve Bank of India, with whom you have worked in the...
Yeah.
Dr. Y.V. Reddy, whom we all respect for these qualities of his head and heart, he has referred to you as a Renaissance man. A Renaissance man, that is what Dr. Ashok Ganguly is, which means a lot. He was a man who looks towards or takes you to growth, heights and all that. Certainly you are that, no doubt about that. Being that, what is your message to present day men in business, commerce, industry, professions and all that, as to the values and traits they need to observe their organizations and the country march forward? Thank you.
The biggest, well, number one, I think Venu Reddy has gone over the top describing me. So I had to put it there because I respect Venu Reddy very much. But Renaissance man and all this is just over the top. My biggest advice to all young people, he says, don't accept, be impatient. Work with impatience. Try to achieve the unachievable. Impatience. We have to be an impatient nation. We must not tolerate. We are sitting in this air-conditioned comfort. We are having this discussion, which is very enriching. But I always think, how many people are going to bed hungry? And that happens to you when you get to my age. I have a lot of free time. I read a lot. And I don't watch anymore news and all that business. I know what's going on. And I am now an impatient old man. I want young people to be impatient, more impatient.
Very well said.
That's my message.
Thank you, doctors. Thank you so much for the pearls of wisdom which have come from you, which certainly have benefited all of us in the last 1 month, one hour or so. Over to Madam Nirmala for closing the session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
all of you.
Thank you so much, sir. Be impatient. Yes, it was absolutely brilliant to listen to an extraordinary life, professional journey, and valuable advice from Dr. Ganguly. Thank you for providing us valuable insight into thinking process and decision-making skills. I do not want to paraphrase on what the author and this eminent panelist were speaking, but to thank profusely every one of you for this scintillating treat, which is certainly enriching and inspiring to all of us. A big thank you to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
And now I request our Honorary Secretary, Mr. Aljaz Khalid, to propose a vote of thanks, please.
Most respected Padma Vibhushan and Padma Bhushan awardee Dr. Ashok S. Ganguly, CBE, President of KMA, Ms. Nirmala Lilly, eminent and distinguished panelist, Mr. Venugopal C. Govind, Mr. KP Padma Kumar, Mr. MK Das, members of KMA, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we had yet another fantastic session. All of us in KMA are truly honored to have with us this evening one of India's most respected sons and admired global citizen, Dr. Ashok S. Ganguly. On behalf of KMA, I thank you, sir, from the bottom of my heart for accepting our invitation to be with KMA members to share your valuable experience through the book review of your memoir. It was a unique book review where we had Kerala's most eminent and distinguished panelists asking you interesting questions and getting the best out for KMA members. Thank you, Dr. Ganguly, for so nicely articulating Afterness, home and away. We are truly honored and proud to have you with us today and listen to your wealth of knowledge and experience. This book is a perfect epitome and source of inspiration for coming generations, not only in corporate world, but in fact for all Indians. I'm sure all participants had a fantastic takeaway this evening. On behalf of President Nirmala and all members of KMA, let me thank you for accepting our invitation for this book review event of KMA. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
We also had today the best of best personalities of Kerala as panelists to discuss Afterness. From the most respected chartered accountant, who is well-known personality in social, cultural, and economic activities in this part of the world, Mr. Venugopal C. Govind, to most admired banker and highly sought after in any forum of importance in town, Mr. KP Padma Kumar, to renowned senior journalist and well-known for his contribution in finance and cultural activities and other several forums, Mr. MK Das. All of you asked very interesting and pertinent questions that brought out the best from the author and his memoir. Actually, we couldn't have asked anything better today. Thank you all for accepting our invitation to be with us for this very unique book review. Thank you, President Nirmala, for that warm welcome and excellent presidential address, briefly articulating the 65 years history of KMA to set the tone and excitement for the evening. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. V.R. Nair, for organizing this important book review and also introducing Dr. Ashok S. Ganguly so nicely to the audience, besides those apt questions during the session. I will be failing in my duty if I don't specially thank Program Committee Chair and Vice President Mr. Bibu Punnuran for arranging yet another program for KMA members. Thank you, Bibu. Last but not the least, a big thanks to all the KMA members present today and specially invited guests who accepted our invitation to join us online and make this event a great thought-provoking book review. Now I request our President, Ms. Nirmala Lilly, to hand over virtually a specially curated digital version of the memento to Dr. Ashok Ganguly with his live photograph from today's session. Sir, this is an online virtual version with your photograph of today's book review.
Thank you.
The physical version will reach you soon by courier for you to remember the talk today at KMA and cherish it. Thank you, President Nirmala. Now
Thank
I
you.
request President.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. It has been an honor for me to sit across the table with such eminent analysts, the President, you who has done all the work. And I wish to express my gratitude for this free discussion, debate, disagreement, or whatever we had during the last 1 hour. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. We are honored and privileged to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now I request President to hand over the memento to one and only Mr. Venugopal C. Govind.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Madam, please also hand over the memento to Kerala's revered banker, Mr. K.P. Padma Kumar. Also to outstanding and brilliant senior journalist, Mr. M.K. Das. And finally, to organizer par excellence and former factory manager of HLL, Mr. V.R. Nair.
Made all this possible.
You made all this possible.
Thank you.
Now for some important announcements for the forthcoming events. On Friday, 16th December, we will have yet another panel discussion on an important topic in vogue: comprehensive legal framework governing digital personal data protection in India. It will be moderated by Mr. Deepak K, Director, Cyber Risk Services of Deloitte, and the panelists will include Mr. Anirban Mohapatra, Partner, Cyril Amarchand and Mangal Das, who will talk about the legal aspects of the draft law. And the panelists will include Mr. Sony A, General Manager and CIO of South Indian Bank. And we'll also have another panelist from IBM. On Thursday, 22nd December, we will have KMA's annual Dr. M.V. Paili Memorial Lecture. And the chief guest will be Mr. Suman Billa, IAS, Principal Secretary, Industries and NORCA. Looking forward to maximum participation of KMA members. Thank you, one and all. Have a nice evening. Over to President.
Thank you.